Some cars depreciate. That's normal. That's expected. But what we're talking about today is different. Owners who bought these vehicles just a couple of years ago have watched massive amounts of value disappear. Not because of an accident, not because they neglected maintenance, not because the vehicles suddenly stopped working. The used car market simply decided it didn't want them anymore. The latest data from CarEdge reveals 15 models that got absolutely destroyed in the pre-owned market, and today we're counting them down, from bad to absolute disaster. Starting at number 15, BMW iX. BMW took one of the most trusted nameplates in luxury, wrapped it in a design that made longtime BMW fans physically uncomfortable, and charged $93,000 for the privilege. But the design isn't even the real story here. The real story is what BMW did with this car behind the scenes. In 2023, BMW aggressively exploited a commercial tax credit loophole to push heavily subsidized iX lease deals. We're talking payments so low they made the car feel like a Toyota. Great for BMW's delivery numbers, great for the lessee who walked away after 3 years. Terrible, absolutely terrible for the person who actually wrote the check. Because when those leases expired, thousands of used iX units hit the market simultaneously. Prices went off a cliff. The buyer who signed the purchase agreement absorbed the entire loss so BMW could hit their quarterly targets. And the used buyer looking at one today, they see an expensive electric SUV from a brand that clearly didn't believe in it enough to sell it, only lease it. 3 years in, the iX has shed 55.1% of its value. You paid $93,000, you're walking away with $41,700. That's over $51,000 gone before you finished paying it off. Number 14, Land Rover Range Rover Sport. Because here's the thing, it's one of the most desirable SUVs on the planet when it's brand new. Celebrities drive them. They look incredible in a driveway and even better in Land Rover commercials. And then the warranty expires. Land Rover ranks near the bottom of every major reliability survey, 27th out of 31 manufacturers. Once you're out of warranty, a basic oil change runs $350 to $600. Annual service bills land between $2,000 and $3,000. Major milestone services can hit $6,000. Air suspension failures, electrical gremlins, repair bills that genuinely don't care how beautiful the car looks in your driveway. The used car market knows all of this. The pool of buyers willing to take on that risk shrinks dramatically, and prices have to fall hard to find anyone willing to roll the dice on a British SUV that's out of warranty. The prestige is real. The cost of ownership after year 3 is also very real. The Range Rover Sport loses 55.5% of its value in 3 years. You paid $98,000, you're getting back $43,600. That's $54,400 evaporated on a car people were fighting over when it was new. Number 13, Jaguar F-Pace. Jaguar ended F-Pace production completely in December 2025. The last unit rolled off the Solihull line and was handed to a heritage trust. The brand is going all electric, abandoning its entire existing lineup and repositioning at a dramatically higher price point. The new Jaguar EVs start around $130,000, roughly $50,000 more than what the F-Pace ever asked. Think about what that means if you're holding a used F-Pace right now. The brand that built your car has walked away from the segment entirely. Dealer support is shrinking. Parts availability becomes a legitimate concern over time. Jaguar's transition has created genuine confusion in the market, with inventory piling up and dealers slashing prices just to move units. The F-Pace didn't just depreciate. The brand pulled the rug out from under it. 3 years later, owners have watched $36,200 disappear from a $65,000 purchase, leaving them with a vehicle worth just under $29,000. Number 12, Audi Q8 e-tron. Here's something the EV industry doesn't want you to think too hard about. Electric vehicles age like consumer electronics, not like cars. Your phone from 3 years ago still works, but it feels ancient, and nobody's paying full price for it. The Q8 e-tron launched with range figures that looked competitive in 2022. By 2025, multiple brands were offering significantly more range, dramatically faster charging, and better real-world efficiency at lower prices. The Q8 e-tron didn't break down. It didn't have a scandal. It just got lapped by the technology it was supposed to represent. And used buyers doing their research see an EV that already feels like last generation. Then they look at the asking price and they laugh. Add in the flood of off-lease luxury EV units that hit the market simultaneously across the segment, and you've got a supply and demand situation that only moves in one direction. Owners are losing $44,700 in just 3 years, watching an $80,000 SUV shrink to about $35,300 in value. Number 11. Audi RS e-tron GT. The RS e-tron GT is mechanically a Porsche Taycan. Same platform, same 800-volt architecture, same electric performance. Audi even has the audacity to advertise this fact, and that is precisely the problem. Because a buyer with $125,000 to spend on an electric performance sedan, the exact buyer Audi is chasing, almost universally wants the Porsche badge, not the 4 rings. The Taycan holds its value. The RS e-tron GT does not. It's the same car at a brutal disadvantage. Too expensive for buyers who want an Audi, not prestigious enough for buyers who can afford $125,000. It falls into a gap in the market that swallows residual values whole. And then the technology obsolescence hits the same way it hits every luxury EV on this list. What was the cutting edge in 2022 is genuinely dated by 2025. At $125,000, that dating process is extremely expensive. Down 56.5% in 3 years. You paid $125,000. You're walking away with $54,400. That's $70,600 lost, more than the median household income in the United States, on one vehicle in 3 years. Number 10. Genesis Electrified G80. Another EV, same story. A wave of lease returns flooding supply, technology moving faster than residual values can keep up with, and Genesis, for all the progress it's made, doesn't yet have the decades of brand equity that might at least soften the blow. When the EV market corrects, it's the newer nameplates that feel it hardest and fastest. The gasoline G80, by the way, holds its value considerably better. The market is telling you something. It might be worth listening. Down 56.5% in 3 years. You write a check for $81,000. 3 years later, nearly $46,000 of that value is gone. Hey, real quick, if you're finding this breakdown helpful, hit that like button. It only takes a second and it really helps the channel. Okay, number 9. The Maserati Ghibli, and this is the one that should make buyers genuinely angry. Maserati sold you a very specific dream with the Ghibli. Italian exotic, Ferrari DNA, the kind of car that turns heads in the valet line and makes your colleagues ask questions. The commercials were cinematic, the price tag was serious, the marketing was immaculate. Then you step inside, and suddenly the illusion starts to fade. The switches, controls, and infotainment system feel straight out of a Jeep or Dodge, not a 6-figure Italian luxury SUV. The engine delivers the Ferrari-inspired excitement buyers expect. The interior doesn't. And when expectations and reality don't match, resale values usually pay the price. Down 58.4% in just 3 years. A $98,000 purchase turns into $57,200 loss. Proof that a famous badge can't always overcome a troubled reputation. Number 8. Mercedes-Benz EQE 500 sedan. Mercedes built this as their flagship electric sedan, a serious, expensive statement that Stuttgart could compete with Tesla and Audi and everyone else chasing the luxury EV buyer. What they didn't account for was Elon Musk deciding to set the entire luxury EV resale market on fire. Beginning in 2023 and running through 2024, Tesla repeatedly slashed prices across its lineup by tens of thousands of dollars. When a brand new Tesla suddenly cost only a few thousand more than a lightly used Mercedes EQE, used pricing had nowhere to go but down. Mercedes responded by stacking aggressive incentives on new EQE units, which only made things worse for anyone who'd already bought one. Brand new EQEs were sitting on lots at massive discounts. The 3-year-old version became nearly impossible to sell at any number that made sense for the original buyer. One man decided to start a price war. Everybody else paid for it. Down 58.8% in 3 years. You paid $86,000. 3 years later, it's worth about $35,400. That's $50,600 evaporated. Number 7, Alfa Romeo Giulia. The car that breaks your heart twice. Once when something goes wrong, and once when you try to sell it. The Giulia is genuinely one of the best driving sedans ever built at its price point. Sharp steering, a chassis that communicates everything, a quadrifoglio version that embarrasses cars costing twice as much on a back road. And none of that matters in the used market. Because the used market isn't buying driving dynamics, it's buying reliability and service access. Alfa Romeo has spent years fighting a reputation for electrical gremlins, battery drains, sensor failures, throttle control errors that show up like clockwork right after the warranty expires. And the dealer network is so thin that post-warranty servicing becomes genuinely inconvenient and expensive for most owners. If you live outside a major metro area, finding a competent Alfa technician is already a project. Finding one who can fix your specific electrical issue without a 3-week wait is a different challenge entirely. The used buyer does that math quickly and they walk. Down 59.2% in 3 years. You paid $49,500 and over $29,000 gone. And yes, the dollar loss looks smaller than others on this list, but losing 59% of any purchase is not something to shrug at. Number 6, Alfa Romeo Tonale Stelvio. Alfa Romeo, again. 2 Alfa Romeos showing up in the top 10 of a worst depreciation list isn't a coincidence, it's a verdict. The used buyer isn't comparing the Stelvio to a Porsche Macan based on how it drives. They're comparing which one they'd rather own for the next 5 years, and that's a comparison Alfa Romeo usually loses. The result? A brutal 60.6% loss in just 3 years, about $31,500 gone. Number 5, Tesla Model X. The Model X is genuinely impressive. Big, fast, practical, loaded with technology. Tesla has a history of introducing cars at steep MSRPs, then a year or two later cutting prices by $3,000, $10,000, sometimes $20,000, leaving used dealers to slash their own prices just to stay competitive. In early 2023 alone, the base Model X dropped by roughly $10,000 overnight. From $111,630 down to $99,130 in a single announcement. That was just one of multiple price cuts that year. Every single time Elon dropped the new price, every used Model X in the country lost value immediately. CarEdge reported the Model X lost 62.6% of its value, nearly $65,700 in less than 3 years. Number 4, Tesla Model S. Number 4, the Tesla Model S. Same story as the Model X, just slightly more painful because the Model S is Tesla's original flagship. The car that started the whole conversation about whether electric vehicles could be taken seriously. It has a decade of loyal ownership behind it, a genuine enthusiast community, a track record of performance that nobody disputes. None of it mattered. Down 65.6% in 3 years. You paid $95,000, you're walking away with $32,700. That's $62,300 lost. Number 3, Maserati Quattroporte. Everything wrong with the Ghibli applies here. The Stellantis switchgear in a 6-figure Italian flagship, the Ferrari maintenance costs without Ferrari reliability, the electrical gremlins, the thin dealer network. All of it. But now you're stacking all of those problems on top of a much higher starting price, and the dollar losses become almost hard to believe. But here's what makes the Quattroporte situation even darker than the Ghibli. The brand itself is in crisis. Maserati's global sales collapsed from 26,600 units to just 11,300 in 2024, and Stellantis pulled $1.6 billion in planned investment from the brand. By 2025, Maserati sold just 7,900 vehicles globally, the lowest total since 2012. While the CEO of Stellantis was deflecting questions about whether Maserati would be sold off entirely, Ferrari, a brand that makes far fewer cars intentionally, outsold Maserati. The used buyer isn't just pricing in repair costs, they're pricing in the very real possibility that Maserati might not exist as a supported brand in 5 years. And that is an extremely uncomfortable thing to be holding in your driveway. The numbers from CarEdge are brutal. 65.7% gone in 3 years. That's an $82,000 hit on a car that was marked as a true rival to the Mercedes S-Class. Number 2, Land Rover Range Rover. Not the Sport, the full-size Range Rover. The flagship, the one that has defined luxury SUVs for decades. For a lot of buyers, this is the dream SUV, the vehicle that says you've made it. But the used market has a way of separating image from reality, and the reality is brutal. The 2024 Range Rover was hit with 7 NHTSA recalls, while RepairPal gives it a below-average 2.0 out of 5.0 reliability rating, ranking near the bottom of the full-size luxury SUV segment. That reputation follows these vehicles into the used market. Buyers love the idea of owning a Range Rover. They're a lot less enthusiastic about paying to keep one on the road once the warranty expires. The result? Massive depreciation. Down 67.6% in just 3 years. You paid $140,000, you're getting back about $45,400. That's $94,600 gone on a single vehicle in 3 years. Number 1, Maserati Levante Grecale. And number 1, the single worst depreciating luxury vehicle in CarEdge's dataset, the Maserati Levante and Grecale. 72% of the value. Gone in 3 years. Let's put that in the most direct terms possible. You bought a $95,000 luxury SUV. 3 years later, it is worth $26,700. You didn't crash it, you didn't neglect it, you just owned it. And nearly 3/4 of what you paid is simply gone. And that brings us to the end of the list. Now I'm curious, which vehicle surprised you the most? Let me know down in the comments. If you found this video useful, hit like and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.